Hello everyone, welcome back. Hi Bano, how are you? Welcome back, dear. How are you? Here is a good name. Good morning, everyone. I am good. How about you, dear Bano? Thank you so much for asking. Hi Kamya, welcome back. How are you, dear? Here is yours. Thank you so much for joining. For your sister. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Do not forget to double tap on your screens and comment your name. You're most welcome, dear. Thank you. Dear Kamya, have a good day. Let's see who is next. How are you all? Hi Hasib, welcome. How are you? Here is a good name. What is your name? My name is Ishal. Hi, dear Ronalyn. Here is yours. Hello, dear Safina. Here is yours. Hello, dear Drew. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Azuka. Here is yours. Good day. You're most welcome, dear. Thank you so much. Hey, dear Siva. Here is yours. Hello, dear Jenna. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Mitra. Here is yours. Hello, dear Hilal. You're most welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for joining here. Don't forget to double tap on your screens. Hi, dear Nabila. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Manat. Here is your good name. Hello, dear Tani. Here is yours. Hi, dear Noylan. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Mukul. Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Hi, dear Noora. Here is your beautiful name. Hello, dear Taskina. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Bhumika. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Aleph. Here is yours. Thank you for joining, guys. Don't forget to double tap on your screens. Hello, dear Philip. Here is yours. Philip from Brazil. How are you doing, Philip? Hello, dear Mora. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Silal. Here is yours. Hi, dear Apsama. Here is your good name. Hello, dear Alphaz. Here is yours. How are you? Hello, dear Noylan. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Madhav. Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Hi, dear Liv. Here is yours. Hi, dear Rohan. Here is your good name. Hello, dear Achita. Here is yours. What a unique name you have. Hello, dear Romy. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Palak. Here is yours. Welcome back, dear Lavanya. Thank you for subscribing. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Daisy. Here is yours. How are you? Hello, dear Ravi. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Ali. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Mahi. Here is yours. Hello, dear Nida. Here is a good name, dear. Hi, dear Basim. Here is yours. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hi, dear Faris. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Irish. What a cool name you have, Irish. Hi, dear Zia. Here is your beautiful name. Hello, dear Prince. Here is yours. Hi, dear Athar. Here is your beautiful name. Hey, dear Yuvraj. Here is yours. Thank you for joining. Don't forget to double tap on your screens. Hello, dear Cassie Day. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Max. Here is yours. Hello, dear Shazlin. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Oh, stream is lagging. Oh no. Hi, dear Sumit. Here is a good name. Hello, dear Fahad. Here is yours. Let me check why the stream is lagging. Guys, double tap on your screens and don't forget to press the subscribe button there. Hi, dear Arshman. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Razia. Here is yours. How are you? Hello, dear Khaira. Here is your beautiful name. You're most welcome, dear. Hello, dear Kashan. Here is yours. Hi, can you do bolo? Why not? Here is yours. Hi, dear. Oh, yeah. Here is your cool name. Hello, dear Ayaz. Here is yours. Hello, dear Scarlett. Here is your good name. How are you? Hello, dear Rebbe. Here is your beautiful name. Guys, don't forget to press the bell icon too. Hi, dear Sarah. Here is yours to get the notification. Hello, dear Navia. Here is a good name. Oh, you're most welcome, dear. Hello, dear Lishika. Here is yours. Hi, dear Sabia. Here is a beautiful name. Sabia. Hello, dear Aditi. Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Hey, dear Mili. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Taha. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Mahi. Welcome back, dear. Samya. Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Hello, dear Nathan. Here is a good name. How are you? Hello, dear Zara. Here is yours. Hello, dear Avon. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Sanjay. Here is yours. How are you? Hello, good day. Hello, dear Cypriya. Here is your good name. Abigail? Is your name Abigail? Okay. Hi, dear Abigail. Here is yours. Let's see who is the next subscriber. Hi, dear Ubed. Here is a good name. Hello, dear Oisha. Here is yours. Thank you for subscribing. Hi, dear Samir. Here is yours. Hi, dear Nadia. Here is a good name. How are you? Hello, dear Zimal. Here is your beautiful name. Thank you for joining, dear Zimal. Hi, dear Aziz. Here is yours. Hello, dear Leah. Here is a good name. Queen. Hello, dear Queen. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Sakshi. Here is a good name. Thank you for joining, guys. Don't forget to double tap on your screens, and there is a subscribe button waiting for your finger press. Let's see who is next. Hi, dear Akib. Here is a good name. Hello, dear Zenitsu. What a cool name you have, dear Zenitsu. Here is yours. Hi, dear Roslyn. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Dua. Here is yours. How are you? Hello, dear Fiza. Okay, here is yours. Hello, dear Jeffrey. Here is a good name. How are you? Hi, dear Alvaran. Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Guys, double tap on your screens. Manisha. Hello, dear Manisha. Thank you so much for subscribing, dear. Here is yours. Hello, dear Devindu. Here is a good name. How are you? Hi, dear Natick. Here is a good name. Thank you for joining. Hi, dear Michelle. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Azam. Here is a good name. Let's see who is next. Hi, dear Nina. Here is yours. Hi, dear Nelly. Here is a good name. Let's see who's gonna be the 30th liker, guys. Double tap on your screens and don't forget to press that subscribe button. Hilal. Hi, dear Hilal. Here is yours. Hi, dear Manish. Manish. Here is yours. How are you? Hello, dear Dama. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Ajwa. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Manal. Here is a good name. Thank you for joining. Hi, dear Zoror. Here is yours. What a unique name you have. Hello, dear Isa. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Dilsad. Here is yours. Dilsad. Hello, dear Rani. Here is a good name. Hi, dear. Let's see who's next. Ashik. Here is yours. Thank you for joining, guys. Don't forget to double tap on your screens. Let's see who is next. Hi, dear Ahan. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Caroline. Here is yours, Caroline. Hi, dear Nami. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Asra. Here is yours. Hello, dear Anushe. Here is a good name. How are you? Hey, dear Javik. Here is your good name. Stay hydrated, guys. Walaikum Assalam. Gurveer, hi. Hi, Uruj. Welcome. Hello, dear Gurveer. Here is a good name. इधर ही है. Hello, dear Uruj. Here is yours. Hi, dear Nail. Here is yours. Hi, dear Aisha. Here is a good name. Double tap on your screen, guys. Don't forget to like and press the subscribe button there. Hi, welcome, dear Aileen. How are you? Here is a good name. Hello, dear Sriya. Here is a good name. Let's see who is next. Hi, dear Fatima. Thank you so much for subscribing, dear cutie pie. It is a good name. Hi, dear Aksa. Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Hi, dear Hakima. Here is a good name. How are you? Hello, dear Manisha. Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Hi, dear Vidhi. Here is a good name. Thank you so much for the love and support, dear. Lots of love. Hi, dear Katarin and A. Guys, let's see who's gonna be the 37 likers. So please keep double tapping if your name got done. So don't forget to press the like and subscribe button. Dear Pihu, welcome. How are you doing today? Hi, dear Mahi Khan. Welcome back. Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Andrea. Hi, dear Andrea. Here is a good name. How are you? Hi, dear Harris. Here is a beautiful name. Hello, dear Abby. Thank you for subscribing, dear Abby. It is a good name. Hi, dear Aryan. Here is a good name. Welcome back, dear Shadia. Here is yours. Hi, dear Helva. Here is yours. Mitra. Hello, dear Mitra. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Kalnia, here is yours. What a unique name you have. Let's see who is next. Hi, dear Jemima. Here is a beautiful name. Thank you for subscribing, dear. Hi, dear Ruby. Here is yours. Hello, dear Reem. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Envy. Here is yours. Hello, dear Shanif. Here is a good name. Let's see who is next. Hi, dear Grace. Here is yours. Hi, dear Navita. Here is a beautiful name. Hi, dear. Oh my God! Please spell my name in paragraphs, guys. Hi, dear Nandini. Here is yours. Let Let's see who is next. Aryan. Hi, dear Aryan. Here is yours. Hey, dear New Year. What a unique name you have, dear New Year. Hello. Hi, welcome, Arman. Here is yours. How are you? Hey, dear Evolet. Here is a good name. Hi. Oh, stream is lagging. Hey, dear Javen. Here is yours. Hi, dear Karthik. Here is a good name. Thank you so much for joining, dear Karthik. Hi, dear Vidhi. Here is yours. Happy birthday. Hi, dear Kanhaiy and A. Here is yours. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hi, dear Rahina. Here is a good name. Hey, dear Atsuki, here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Sarim, here is a beautiful name. Have a good day. Hi, dear Elena. Here is a beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Harsha. Here is a beautiful name. Hello, dear Jasmine. Here is yours. Hakima, dear, your name was done, so please don't spam. Hi, dear Vinny. Here is a good name. How are you? Hello, dear Ibra. Here is yours. Thank you so much for joining. Hi, dear Amit. Here is a good name. Hello, dear Rushi. Here is yours. Let's see who's next. Hi, dear Vihanga. Here is a good name. How are you? Hello, dear Milky. Here is a good name. Let's see who is next. Hi, dear Wafa. Here is yours. Hello, dear Hira. Here is a good name. How are you? Hi, dear Umaiza. Here is yours. Hello, dear Soma. Here is a good name. Hi, dear William. Here is yours. Thank you for joining, guys. Let's see who's gonna be the 47 liker. Hi, dear Dayan. Here is a good name. Happy birthday, Akima. Hi, dear Irina. Here is yours. Hi, dear Fatih. Here is a good name. What a unique name you have. Hello, I am Lena. Hello, dear Lena. It is a good name. Thank you so much for your precious time. And thank you for joining, dear. Hi, dear Reva. Here is a good name. Hello, dear Grozna. Here is yours. Is this really your name? What a unique name you have, dear. Hi, dear Zilona. Welcome back. How are you? It is a good name, dear. Hi, dear Jornak. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Sibkaji. Walaikum salam. Here is yours. Electricity went off, Sibkaji. That's why the stream cut off. Hi, dear Zoe. Here is a good name. Hello, dear Sammy. Here is yours. Hello, dear Indy. Here is a good name. Let's see who's gonna be the 47 liker, guys. Come on, double tap on your screens and don't forget to press the subscribe button. Hi, dear Darcy. Here is yours. Hello, dear Carrie Dan. Here, Carrie Dan or Carrie Dan? Let me check the spelling. A-N. Here is yours. Hi, dear Hubsy. Here is yours. What a unique name you have. Hi, dear Eva. Here is a good name. Hello, dear Diksha. Here is yours. Hi, dear Lay. Here is yours. Thank you for joining, dear. Hi, dear Faizan. Madhurima. After this, dear Faizan. Here is yours. Hi, dear Madhurima. Here is yours. Thank you for joining. Don't forget to double tap on your screens. Hi, Nihira. Welcome back. How are you, Nihira? Hi, dear Hafsa. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Alex. Here is yours. Hi, me, please. What's a good name, dear? Hi, dear sweetie. Here is your good name. Hello, dear Evita. Here is yours. Thank you for joining. Hi, dear Milena. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Eduardo. Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Let's see who's gonna be the 50 liker, guys. Keep double tapping on your screens. Hi, dear Aradhya. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Gloria, here is yours. Hello, dear Lily, here is your good name. How are you? Hello, dear Amaya, here is yours. Hi, dear Hafsa, here is your beautiful name. Hello, dear Fatima. Don't write your name in paragraphs, guys. Fatima, here is yours. Hi, dear Meva, here is your good name. Hello, dear Ridhima, here is yours. Let's see who is next. Hi, dear Angel, here is a good name. Hello, dear Behlil, here is yours. Thank you for joining. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And let me drink some water because it's too hot here. And stay hydrated, guys. Nora. Hi, dear Nora. Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Gavin. Hi, dear Gavin. Here is your good name. Hello, dear. Shadia was done before, dear. Here is yours. Let me check the spelling. Sinemis. Here is yours. Hey, dear Akshaya. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Janvi. Here is yours. Hello, dear Anu. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Nandana. Here is yours. How are you? Let's see who is next. Hi, dear Vila, double L-A. Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Janvi. Hi, dear Janvi. Here is your good name. Hello, dear. Chamaya. Oh, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Chamaya. Here is yours. Hello, dear. It's my birthday, Nessa. Happy birthday to you, dear Nessa. Here is yours. Hey, dear Alexandra. Here is your good name. How are you? Hi, dear Adarsh. Here is your good name. You're most welcome. Thank you. Hello, dear Janvi. My name is Ishal, dear. Hey, dear Adarsh. Here is yours. Hello, dear Birdie. Here is your good name. How are you? Hi, dear Rose. Here is yours. Hi, dear Tuna. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Adil. Here is yours. How are you? Let's see who's gonna be the 6-7 liker, guys. Danny. Hi, dear Danny. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Unesi. Here is yours. Hello, dear Vikram. How are you? Thank you for joining. Hi, dear Rutvika. Here is yours. Thank you for joining. Don't forget to like and press the subscribe button. Hi, dear AO. Here is a good name. Hi, dear and other Fatima. Wow. Welcome, dear Fatima. How are you? Hi, dear Lena. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Salen. Here is yours. Okay, dear Presley. Hi, dear Presley. Here is yours. Thank you for joining. Let's see who's next, guys. Hello, dear. M-E, let me check the spelling. M-E-G-E, no, M-E-R-E. Oh God, what I am doing? M-E-R-E-G-R-A-C-E. Here is yours. Thank you so much for your patience, guys. Hello, dear. You're most welcome, dear Lily. Dear Rahma, here is a good name. Hi, dear Ayan. Here is yours. Don't stop double tapping. Let's see who's going to be the 6th-time liker, guys. Hey, dear Iram. Here is yours. Hi, dear Tasmia. You're most welcome. Here is yours. Thank you. Lots of love, dear. Hi, dear Smigma. Smigma, here is yours. Hi, dear Marwa. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear VJ. Here is yours. Joy is done, dear. But if you want a screenshot, so you can watch my live later too. Your name is Tana31. Guys, double tap on your screens and don't forget to press the subscribe button. Let's see who is next. Piper. Hi, dear Piper. Here is a good name. Hello, dear Gopika. Here is yours, Gopika. Hi, dear Ruva. Here is a good name. Hello, dear. Oh, good. Hi, dear Mishti. What a unique name you have, Mishti. Mit. Oh, Mishti. Here is yours. Hi, dear Sarah. Here is a good name. Hello, dear Madhu. Here is yours. Hi, dear Olivia. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Garvey. Here is yours. Hello, dear Brett. Here is a good name. How are you? Hello, dear Sidhu. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Cobra. Here is yours. Thank you so much for joining, dear Cobra. Hi, dear Karma. Here is a good name. Hello, dear Angel. Here is yours. Oh, you're most welcome, dear. Lots of love. Thank you. Hi, dear Valentine. Here is a good name. Really appreciate your love and support. Hi, dear. No year. No year. Here is yours. Hi, dear Can. Here is a good name. Hello, dear Alpha. Here is a beautiful name. Hi, dear Drishti. Here is yours. How are you? Lavanya, welcome back. How are you doing? Hi, dear Kuldeep. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Zainab. Here is yours. How are you? Hello, dear Kanishka. Here is a beautiful name. Kanishka. Let's see who is next. Lavanya was done before, dear. But it's okay if you want a screenshot of your name, you can take it now. Can watch my live later too. Your time is 34. Hi, Siarifa. How are you, dear? Siarifa. Here is yours. Thank you for joining. Hi, dear Danya. Here is a good name. How are you? Hello, dear Rita. Here is a good name. Hello, dear Vanessa. Here is yours. How are you? Thank you so much for liking and subscribing. What is your good name? Hi, dear Sean. Hey, just a minute, guys. Hi, dear Rehma. Here is yours. Can you guys hear me now? Thank you so much for your patience. Let's see who is next. Hi, dear Shireen. Here is a good name. You're most welcome, dear. Thank you so much. Hi, dear Sham. Here is yours. Hi, dear Arya. How are you? It is a good name. You're most welcome. Can you guys hear me, please? Could anyone tell? Hi, dear Grace. Here is yours. Hi, dear Luna. Here is a good name. Thank you so much. Hi, dear Anthony. Here is yours. Thank you so much for the love and support, guys. Hi, dear Dahlia. Hi, welcome back. How are you doing today? Have a good day, dear. Hey, dear Tejas. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Lisa. Here is yours. Hi, you're most welcome. Sulat. Here is yours. Is this really your name? Catalina. Hi, dear Catalina. Catalina. Here is yours. Hi, dear Eliza. Here is your beautiful name. Thank you so much, dear. I really appreciate your love and support. Let's see who's gonna be the 61 liker. Three more guys. Double tap on your screens and don't forget to press the subscribe button. Hi, dear Fahim. Here is your silver. Hello, dear silver. Here is a good name. Hey, dear Elena. Here is yours. Hi. Try say sama sama. What is the meaning of sama sama? Hey, dear Irina. Here is yours. Hello, dear Amin. Here is a good name. You remember me? Yeah, dear. Why not? Hey, dear Vikram, here is yours. Hi, dear Jack, here is a good name. Hi, dear Calf, here is yours. Hello, dear Ace, here is a good name. Hey, dear Cat, certified, what's a good name? Hey, dear Aksh. Here is yours. Hello, dear Ananya. Here is a good name. Yes, dear, I remember you. Hi, dear Sana. Here is yours. Thank you for subscribing. Hey, dear Rhyme. Here is a good name. Hello, dear Kenya. Here is yours. Hi, dear Leela. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Shifa. And a cat. Huh? What is the meaning of this? And a cat. Okay, let's move to the next name. Hi, dear Badul. Here is yours. Hello, dear Tank. Here is yours. How are you? Hello, dear Mia. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Faika. Here is yours. That's my name. Oh, for real, dear. What was that? I'm a cat? It sounds like I am a cat. Hi, dear Mira. Here is yours. You. What? No, I am not. But I don't think so. That was your name. Hi, dear Masum. Here is yours. Hello, dear Mia. Here's a good name. Hello, dear Hiba. Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Hey, can you see me? Hi. Yeah. What's a good name, dear? Hello, dear Aditi. Here is yours. Hello, dear Janesha. Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Hi, dear Lacey. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Nawal. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Joao. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Naya. Your name is Anikit. So that was not your name, right? Aniket, here is yours. Aniket, I think is the right pronunciation, maybe. Hi, dear Mahnoor. Here is a good name. How are you? Hello. Oh, you're most welcome. Hey, dear Apito. Here is a good name. How are you? You are from Indonesia. Welcome. Hi, dear Imran. Here is yours. Hello, dear Mapo. Here is a good name. Hello, dear Isai. Here is yours. How are you? Batul. Batoul. Here is yours. Eva from India. So good to have you here. Thank you so much. Let's see who is next. Viyansh. Hi, dear Viyansh. Here is a good name. You're most welcome. Hi, dear Rita. Here is yours. Hello. Oh, bye. Take care, dear. Thank you for joining. Hi, dear Anushka. Have a good day. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Mario. Here is yours. Hello, dear Nayab. Here is your good name. Hi, dear G's. Here is yours. Came from yesterday. Welcome back, dear Delia. Hi, dear Ishal. Here is a good name. Thank you for joining the game. Hey, dear Shaz. Here is yours. Delia. I remember your name, dear Brenda. Hello, dear Brenda. Here is a good name. Guys, let's see who's gonna be the 70, no, 80 liker. Hi, dear Manthan. Here is yours. Thank you for joining. Hi, dear Muskan. Here is a good name. Thank you so much, dear. Thanks for the love and support. Hi, dear Arjun. Here is a good name. Don't need to please me. Just drop your names. Thank you so much. Hello, dear Melissa. Here is yours. Hi, dear Suman. Here is a good name. Let's see who is next. Hi, dear Crystal. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Animal. Here is a beautiful name. Hello, dear Zed. Here is yours. How are you? Thank you for joining, dear Junior. Hello, dear Junior. Here is yours. Hi, dear Julie. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Zahro. Here is yours. Hi, dear. Let me check the spelling of P E Tushidze. Hard to pronounce for me, but here is yours, dear. Thank you so much for joining, and don't forget to press the subscribe button there. Hi, dear Poppy. Oh my God! Don't use these kinds of words, dear. I thought you are saying, "Hey, dear Jude." Here is yours. Hey, dear Delia. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Atif. Here is yours. Thank you for joining, dear. Hi, dear Imran. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Noor. Here is yours. Hi, dear Makasi. What a unique name you have. Here is yours. Hello, dear Appy. Here is a good name. How are you? Hi, dear Anto. Here is a good name. Let's see who's gonna be the 90s liker, guys. Hi, dear Ishal. Here is yours. Hi, dear Joanne. Here is your good name. Hello, dear Hannah. Here is yours. Hi, dear. You're most welcome. Section. Section. Section or section? Section. Here is yours. Hello, dear Tavzin. Here is a good name. How are you? Hi, dear Javilia. Here is yours. Hello, dear Faiha. Here is a beautiful name. Hi, dear Sabina. Here is yours. Thank you so much for joining. Don't forget to like and subscribe, Delia. Here is yours. Let me drink some water. Stay hydrated, guys. Just give me 1 second, 1 minute. Yeah. Nehir. Hello, dear Nehir. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Nia. Here is yours. Hi, dear Kylie. Here is a beautiful name. Hello, dear Rose. Here is yours. Hi, dear Francis. Here is a good name. How are you? Hi, dear Mona. Here is a beautiful name. Hello, dear Ahmed. Here is yours. Thank you for joining. Hey, dear Cherry. What a beautiful name you have, dear Cherry. Cherry. Hello, dear Ibrahim. How are you? Ibrahim, here is yours. Hello, dear Giant. Here is your good name. Giant. How are you? Hi, dear Rick. Here is yours. Hello, dear. You're most welcome. Here is a beautiful name. Hi, dear Inara. Here is yours. Let's see who's gonna be the 90s liker. Keep double tapping on your screens. Uman. Hello, dear Uman. Here is yours. Hi, dear Samiha. Here is a good name. How are you? Hi, dear Reyes. Here is yours. Hello, dear Philly. Here is a good name. Hi, dear. Hi, welcome. Shirin. Here is yours. Hello, dear Ines. Here is a good name. Hey, dear Tawny. Here is yours. What a unique name you have, dear Tawny. Let me change the brush. Hi, dear Amber. Here is a beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Leah. Here is yours. Hello, dear. Tanzine is done, dear. William. Here is yours. How are you? It is a good name. Hi, dear Hashem. Here is a beautiful name. How are you? Hello, welcome. Hey, dear Dora. It is a good name. Hi, dear Reshma. Here is yours. Hello, dear Louis. Here is a good name. Hello, dear Holly. Here is yours. Hi, dear me. Thank you for subscribing, dear me. Me. What a unique name you have. You're most welcome, dear. Thank you. Lots of love. Hi, dear Aria. Here is a good name. Hello, dear Lara. Here is yours. Hi, dear Falak. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Alessio. Here is yours. Alessio. Hi, dear Elisa. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear. Is this your name? Janjo or Ganjo? No, I don't know how to pronounce this, but here is yours, dear. Thank you. Thank you so much for subscribing. What's a good name? Shreya. You have such a beautiful name, dear Shreya. Here is yours. Thank you for subscribing, dear. Hi, dear Piyush. Here is your good name. How are you? Hello, Memphis is your literally your name. Okay, here is yours. Hi, dear Melina. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Salman. Here is yours. How are you? You're most welcome, dear. Hello, dear Anjali. Here is your cool name. Hi, dear Nazwa. Here is yours. How are you? Hey, dear Sanip. Sanip. Here is a good name. Hello, dear Nusida. Merhaba. Nasılsın? İnsanlara hoş geldiniz. Hi, dear Avinash. Here is your beautiful name. Ikundar. Hello, dear Belene. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Let's see who's gonna be the 100th liker, guys. Come on. Tawahira. Here is yours. Hey, dear Annie. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Prince. Prince. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Vangu. Here is a good name. Let's see who is next, guys. Zan. Hi, Zan. How are you? Hello, Anika. Hello, dear Zan. Here is yours. Hi, dear Anika. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Skyla. Here is yours. Don't forget to press the subscribe button in the right corner. Hi, dear Alessa. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Lena. Here is yours. Hey, dear Sharon. Here is a good name. How are you? Guys, double tap on your screens and don't forget to. Hey, Cassie, welcome. How are you, dear? This is for you. Thank you for joining, guys. Don't forget to press the like and subscribe button. Hi, dear Nasya. Here is a cool name. Hello, dear Navya. Here is yours, Nasya and Navya. Welcome to both of you. Hi, dear Yasmin. Here is your beautiful name. Hello, dear Evelyn. Here is yours. Hi, dear Anusri. Here is your good name. Anusri. Hi, you're most welcome, dear. Hello, dear Sajwa. Here is yours. Hello, dear Hujo. Here is a good name. Hey, dear Asel. Here is yours. Thank you for joining. Don't forget to double tap on your screens. Hi, Aisha. How are you doing? Welcome. Here is yours. Thank you for joining. Hi, dear Sai Kumar. What is your name, dear? Sai Kumar. Let me check the spelling. Sai Kumar. What a beautiful name you have. Welcome. Hey dear Vilo, here is yours. Thank you so much for liking. What's a good name? Hey dear Indy, here is yours. Hello Navya. Okay, dear Navya, here is yours. Thank you so much for joining everyone. Let's see who is our next subscriber. Next subscriber is Daksh. Hi, welcome. Hello, dear Daksh. Here is yours. Did you really subscribe? Because I said next subscriber is Daksh. Hi, dear Sonali. Here is yours. Hi, dear Isha. Here's a good name. Hello, dear Selena. Here is yours. Hi, dear Rashid. Here is yours. Thank you so much for subscribing, guys. Let's see who is next. Nilanika. Nilanika or Nilanka? Nilanika. What a beautiful name you have. Nilanika. Nilanika. Hi, dear Varsha. How are you? Here is yours. Hi, dear Riza. Here is your good name. Hello, dear Simenu. Simenu. Here is yours. Hello, dear Satya. Here is your good name. Oh, stream is lagging. Moni. Hi. Zuki. Hi, dear Zuki. How are you? Let's wait just 1 minute. Maybe it's getting better. Oh, yeah. Here is yours. Hello, dear Jungkook for you, dear Army. I am good. Oh, good to know. Have a good day, dear. Hi, dear Sarah. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Dana. Here is yours. How are you? Hello, dear Mirab. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Mahi. Here is yours. Hello, dear Rumi. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Pandu. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Ella. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Naj. Here is yours. Hi, dear Myra. Here is a good name. Hey, dear Abby. Here is yours. Don't know why the stream is lagging. Network is not networking. Let's see who is next. Welcome back, Amul Bhai. How are you doing? You're most welcome. Oh, it's all right now. Hello, dear Amul. Here is yours. Hi, dear Ballet. Here's a good name. You're most welcome, dear. Thank you so much. Guys, don't forget to double tap on your screens, and there is a subscribe button waiting for your finger press. Let's see who's next. You're doing fine. Hey, dear Kathy. Here is yours. Hi, dear Aiko. Here is a good name. Let me change the brush. Hi, dear Kim. Here is yours. Hello, dear Sinar. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Olia. Here is yours. Hi, dear Suman. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Kanika. Here is yours. Let's see who's next. Saro. Here is yours. Hi, dear Matt. How are you? Here is yours. Thank you for joining. Hi, dear Rumi. Here is a good name. Hello, welcome. Hi, dear Nose. Here is yours. Hi, dear Shaika. Here is a good name. How are you? Zach. Hi, dear Zach. Yes, Amul bhai, because of the network issue, no, electricity issue, because electricity went off suddenly, and that's why life ended. Robert. Hi, dear Robert. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Ismail. Here is yours. Hello, dear Linda. Here is your good name. How are you? Hello, dear what's your name? Priyangelina. What a beautiful name you have. Priyangelina. Here is yours. Guys, double tap on your screens and don't forget to press the subscribe button. Hi, dear Ruma. Here is your good name. Hello, dear Helena. Here is yours. Below your name was done before, dear. But if you want a screenshot of your beautiful name, here is yours again. You can take it now. Or you can watch my live later too. It is uploaded on my channel, e-signatures. 104 is your time. You might be a different villa. Okay, no problem at all. It is yours. Hi Noora, how are you, dear? Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Siddharth. Hi, dear Siddharth. Here is your good name. Thank you so much for subscribing, dear Siddharth. Hi, dear Olia. Here is your good name. How are you? Hi, dear Pragati. Here is yours. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Manraj. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Sana. Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Joshnika. Hi, dear Joshnika. Here is a beautiful name. Hi, dear Setu. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Maryam. Here is your good name. Hello, dear Ayaz. Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Amul Bhai, are you here? Jasmita. Hello, dear Jasmita. Here is your good name. How are you? Hey, dear Daria. Here is yours. Setu, good to know. Hey, dear Ostrich. Here is a good name. Where are you from, dear? You have such a beautiful name. Hi, dear Dhanvika. How are you? Dhanvika. Here is yours. Hi, dear Miku. Here is a good name. Thank you so much for joining, guys. Welcome. Hey, dear Welke. Here is yours. You are from Azerbaijan. Thank you. Thank you so much, dear, for joining. So good to have you here. Hi, dear Anika. Here is a good name. Do you know about the Shahdag Mountains? Literally, I love that place. Hi, dear Amber. Here is yours in Azerbaijan. I literally in love with that place, Shahdag Mountains. Hi, dear Jane. How are you? Let me write for you. Jane, here is yours. Hi, dear Danilo. Here is your good name. Mrs. Lian. Hello, dear. How are you? You are from Rajasthan. Oh, wow. I have heard a lot about Rajasthani chutney. Hey, dear RL, here is yours. Thank you, dear Setu. Let's see who is next. Thank you so much. Ayaz was done before, dear. Let me check for the. You are from Bangladesh. Oh, wow. Hi, dear Aishu. Here is yours. Thank you for joining, dear. Bye. Okay. Take care. I am good. How about you, dear? Thank you so much for asking, Yagmur. Hello, dear Yagmur. Here is yours. Zainab from Pakistan. Welcome, dear Zainab. How are you? It is a beautiful name. So good to have you here. Hi, dear Ishan. Here is yours. Hello, dear Ayat. Here is a good name. Hi, fine. Oh, good. Hi, dear Summer. Here is yours. Guys, don't forget to double tap on your screens. I am good, dear Kitty. How about you? I like your channel. Lots of love. Hi, dear Monica. Here is yours from India. So good to have you here. Hi. You didn't see. Oh, what's your good name? Can you tell me again? Hi, dear Bella. Here is yours. Hi, dear Junejo. Here is a good name. I am fine. Good to hear. Have a good day to all of you. Hi, dear Ayat. Here is yours. You are from Kurdistan. Oh, wow. Lots of love. Hi, dear Unati. Here is a good name. Hello, dear Abdul. Here is yours. Thank you so much for subscribing. What's a good name? Hi, dear Sky. Here is yours. Can you guess? Hey, dear AC. Here is a good. Guys, we are stuck on 112. Can we make it 120 at least? So please double tapping on your screens to like this live and don't forget to press the subscribe button though. Hi, dear Maria. Here is yours. Hello, dear Samad. Here is a good name. Sky from India. Oh, good to know. Hi, Radhesham ji. Welcome back. Hi, dear Aska. Here is yours. Fa. Hello, dear Swastika. Here is yours. Thank you for subscribing, dear Swastika. Here is yours. Velat. Thank you. What? Why? Hey, dear Abdul. Here is yours. No, of course not. Hey, dear Joanne. Here is yours. Why would I hate anybody? I literally in love with you all. Hey, dear Joanne, here is yours. Okay, dear Shive, here is yours. Hi, dear. Let me check the spelling. Kailash. Kailash. Kailash. Here is yours. Thank you so much for joining. Hey, Zahwa. How are you? Here is yours. Because I am from Pakistan and you're from India. I am not from India and I didn't hate anybody from any country. Hi, dear Avira. We should respect each and every human in this world. Hi, dear Avira. No matter where do you belongs to. Lots of love, dear. Hi, dear Eva. Here is yours. Hi, dear. Let's see who is next. Ali. Here is yours. Hi, dear Dia. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Karthik. Here is a beautiful name. Can you can you write my name? Oh, what's your name, dear? You haven't tell your name. Hi, dear Diane. Tain. Here is yours. Thank you so much for joining, dear Zirva. Hi, dear Zirva. Zainab. Okay. You have such a beautiful name, dear Zainab. Here is yours. Let's see who is next, guys. Amina. Hello, dear Amina. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Zirva. Guys, double tap on your screens and don't forget to press the subscribe button right there. Your writing is so good. Thank you so much. AC, welcome back. How are you doing? Have a good day. Hi, dear Masum. Here is a good name. Hello, dear Milane. Here is yours. Hi, dear Noman. Here is your beautiful name. Hello, dear Rana. Here is yours. Hello, dear Aslam. Here is your good name. How are you? Hi, dear Aviraj. Here is your good name. Thank you for joining. Hi, dear Shraddha. Here is your Shraddha. Don't forget to double tap on your screen, guys. Let me check the time. Hi, dear Muskan. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Sihal. Here is your beautiful name. She is asking, who? Who is asking, dear? Hi, dear Minahil. Here is yours. And guys, now it's time to end this stream. So don't forget to press the subscribe button and don't forget to press the bell icon too. And it's prayer time. Okay, guys, now it's time to end the stream, and our last name for the stream is Joanne with double N. Thank you so much for subscribing, everyone. Thank you for your precious time, and I'll be back after 1 hour. Till then, take care. Love you all. Thank you for subscribing. Lots of love. Bye. Take care and stay hydrated. Bye.